Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're opening up a text that honestly feels less like just a chapter and more like well, an urgent blueprint for survival almost.
Yeah, a guide for spiritual resilience, especially when everything around you feels like it's collapsing.
Exactly. We're diving deep into Surah Al-Ahqaf,
Yeah.
the 46th chapter of the Qur'an. And our mission really is to pull out the wisdom for maintaining steadfastness, istiqama, even when you feel totally alone.
And, to really get the power of this chapter, you absolutely have to understand the moment it came down. We're talking about the prophet's darkest hour, Natnakan period, specifically the 10th year of prophethood. It's universally known as the Huzn.
The Year of Sorrow, that title.
Mm.
It's not just hinting at sadness, is it? It suggests something much deeper, like sustained crushing loss and pressure.
Oh, absolutely. Sustained is the right word. What
Yeah.
made it so crushing? Well, it was really a perfect storm designed to break both the prophet and the early Muslim community. They'd just come out of that brutal 3-year social and economic boycott by the Quraysh. I mean, just think about that, physically, financially drained,
Exhausted, yeah.
totally exhausted. But then the real heartbreak hit. Almost immediately, one after the other, he lost his two biggest human supports.
His political shield and his, emotional rock.
Precisely. First, Abu Talib passed away.
Mm-hmm.
His uncle, the head of the Banu Hashim clan. Now, he never formally accepted Islam, but his protection, it was ironclad.
Absolutely vital.
Vital.
Yeah.
His death instantly removed that political immunity, leaving the prophet completely exposed to the Quraysh elite, who were, let's face it, getting more aggressive.
And then almost right after.
Almost immediately, Khadija, his beloved wife, mother of his children, the very first person to believe in him, his constant source of comfort and emotional refuge, gone.
Wow. Losing your protector and your confidant, basically back to back, the ground must have felt like it was just dissolving beneath their feet. Emotionally, politically.
It was pure instability. And then, as if that wasn't enough, came the final crushing emotional blow, the journey to Taif.
Ah, yes. Seeking help elsewhere.
He was desperate, looking for a new audience, maybe some physical safety outside Makkah. He travels there, and what does he get? Not just rejection, brutal rejection, physical assault, stoning.
Unbelievable cruelty.
He returned to Makkah wounded physically and, deeply distressed, just seeking refuge in Allah.
And it's right then, in that moment of complete human depletion, when all earthly help seemed gone, that's when Surah Al-Ahqaf was revealed.
Exactly. That timing tells you everything. This isn't just another chapter. It's direct, profound divine comfort. It's spiritual resuscitation.
It's like the ultimate reassurance. When the world turns its back, the ultimate support is still there, unwavering.
Absolutely. Now let's connect that suffering, that instability, to the name of the surah itself, Al-Ahqaf.
Al-Ahqaf. It translates literally as the sand dunes or the winding sand tracks. It's known as the place where the ancient people of Ad lived, this desolate area. Why anchor a message about resilience in something so shifting, so unstable?
Well, that instability is the metaphor. That's the whole point. Sand dunes, by their very nature, shift. They look massive, maybe even strong, but a gust of wind can change them. They lack a solid foundation.
Okay.
So this surah warns right from its title that any life, any belief system, any civilization, whether it's the powerful Ad back then or the arrogant Quraysh in Makkah, or frankly any society today, if it's built on the shifting sands of falsehood, polytheism, shirk, materialism, spiritual arrogance, it's inherently unstable. It's doomed to collapse.
So our deep dive today is really about contrasting that shaky ground of falsehood with the solid, immovable rock of truth, Al-Haq. Okay, let's start where the surah starts, with what you called the twin books of authority. It opens with those mysterious disconnected letters, Hamim.
Yes, the Muqadda'at. They function as this really powerful, though maybe subtle, challenge right at the outset.
How so?
Well, think about it. The Qur'an, this miraculous text, it's made up of the exact same letters the pagan Arabs were masters of using in their poetry and speeches every single day. They prided themselves on their eloquence.
Right, they're linguistic experts.
Exactly. Yet despite their mastery, they couldn't produce anything like it. Not its literary quality, not its spiritual depth, not its coherence. It's like a divine challenge laid down in their own language. You say this is made up? Fine. Try making something similar. Its very inimitability points straight to its divine source.
That sets the stage perfectly then for verse 2, which identifies the source with specific attributes. It says the revelation is from Allah, Al-Aziz, Al-Hakim.
And the choice of those two names here is so intentional, especially given that Year of Sorrow context we talked about. Al-Aziz, the Almighty, the Invincible. So Picture the Prophet, having just lost his earthly protector, Abu Talib, feeling politically vulnerable. This attribute comes as a guarantee. The message itself is supreme and invincible. Human supporters might fail, but the source cannot be stopped.
It's like saying the power the Quraysh seem to have right now, it's temporary. It means nothing against God's eternal might.
Precisely. And paired with that is Al-Hakim the All-Wise. This guarantees that everything in the revelation is perfect, purposeful, free from mistakes, contradictions, or randomness. It's a perfect message from a supreme authority who is also perfectly wise and just.
Which must have been incredibly comforting when facing so much injustice.
Exactly. When you're suffering in the year of sorrow, you need to know that your ultimate protector is both mighty enough to ensure victory and wise enough to know the perfect timing for it.
So the surah immediately links that revealed book, the Qur'an, to the created book, the universe, in verse 3. It seems to be building a rational case for accountability.
It is. This is the bedrock of the rational argument for the hereafter. It says the heavens and the earth were created bil haq, with truth, with justice, with purpose, and crucially, for an appointed term.
Meaning it's not forever, it's not random.
Correct. Creation isn't some cosmic accident or eternal playground. It has a definite beginning and a definite end.
So if the universe itself has a purpose and an end date, and yet we see injustice all the time, good people suffering, oppressors getting away with things, then that purpose, that justice, isn't fully realized here.
Logically, it requires another stage, an appointed time for the final reckoning, where justice is perfectly served.
So the universe itself argues for a day of judgment.
It does. The finite, purposeful nature of everything you see provides this compelling, rational argument for resurrection. To deny accountability, the surah implies, is basically to say the whole magnificent universe is pointless, which is, well, irrational. And it points out that the disbelievers just turn away, even though the evidence is right there.
This systematic, evidence-based approach then leads straight into dismantling shirk, polytheism, in the next verses. It feels like it's really challenging the listener, appealing to our desire for intellectual honesty.
It absolutely is. The surah basically demands proof from the polytheists, challenging them on three distinct, verifiable levels. It leaves no room for just feelings or inherited traditions. It shows their whole system is built on those shifting sands we mentioned.
Okay, let's break down those challenges. The first one sounds like a demand for empirical, rational proof.
Yes, the challenge is direct and simple. Show me what they have created of the earth. The logic is inescapable. If you claim these idols, these other beings, are partners with God, then they must have done something. Show us their contribution to creation.
Like point to the mountain they made, or the river they carved out.
Exactly, showing the tangible proof of shared creation. Of course, since creation belongs only to Allah, that proof doesn't exist. It's a challenge they can't possibly meet.
So if there's no proof in the physical world, the surah shifts to the realm of revelation demanding textual proof.
Right. The next challenge is, bring me a scripture earlier than this one. Basically, show me any authentic divine book from before the Qur'an that actually supports worshiping anyone or anything besides the one God.
It's an appeal to historical consistency and revelation.
Precisely. Because the core message of all the prophets, going way back, was Tawhid, pure monotheism. The polytheists in Makkah couldn't point to a single legitimate scripture that justified their practices.
And the third layer of proof, it goes beyond scripture to transmitted knowledge.
Yes, they're asked to bring any vestige athara of knowledge. Athara here means reliable, traceable evidence, like a teaching or a ruling or some tradition that's been authentically passed down from a known prophet or a righteous scholar, not just vague myths or what our ancestors did.
So the message is crystal clear. Look at the physical world, no proof. Look at previous scriptures, no proof. Look at reliable historical transmission. Still no proof. Your beliefs have zero foundation in verifiable reality.
Exactly. It's a complete intellectual takedown. And the consequence of building your life on that baseless worship, it's terrifying.
The verses say the invoked deities are totally unaware of the worship.
Completely oblivious. And then, on Judgment Day, the ultimate twist. Those very beings they worship will become their enemies. They'll actively disown the worshipers.
That's chilling. Imagine dedicating your life to something that not only didn't know you existed, but will turn against you when you need help the most.
It's the ultimate futility. The relationship flips entirely from supposed intercessor to hostile accuser. That's the emptiness of building on sand.
Faced with this kind of rigorous dismantling, the Makkans, maybe predictably, didn't engage with the arguments. They went for personal attacks, calling the prophet a sorcerer, a fabricator. How does the surah tell him to respond?
And his response is just a masterclass in integrity, rooted deeply in taqwa, that profound consciousness and fear of God.
Yeah.
He's told to say, if I have fabricated it, then you have no power to protect me from Allah at all.
That's such a powerful comeback. He's not just saying, I'm honest. He's shifting the whole basis of his truthfulness. Why is focusing on his fear of God more persuasive than just denying the accusation?
Because it takes his own self-interest completely out of the picture. Think about it. If he were making it all up for worldly gain, power, status, wealth, who would he fear most?
The Quraysh, the ones who could give or withhold those things, he'd want their protection.
Exactly. But by saying his greatest fear is Allah's punishment, he's proving his motivation isn't worldly at all, it's transcendental. He's saying, my commitment to this truth is guaranteed by my fear of the ultimate judge, and that's a much stronger guarantee than any oath you could demand or any protection you could offer.
He then goes on to clarify his role, saying, I am not a novel messenger, emphasizing his humanity and submission. I only follow that which is revealed to me. Managing expectations, maybe?
Precisely. He's defining himself clearly. I am a human being, a conduit for this message. I don't originate, I just follow what comes to me. I'm just a plain warner. This stops him from demanding things outside his role, like flashy miracles on demand or claiming personal authority beyond the revelation itself.
And then, to counter the stubbornness of the Quraysh, the surah throws in this external validation in verse 10, mentioning a witness from the children of Israel. Who was that?
It's a really strategic move. Many commentators identified this witness as someone like Abdullah ibn Salam, who is a prominent and respected Jewish scholar in Medina before he embraced Islam.
Okay.
The challenge to the Quraysh is kind of twofold. First, here's someone from a previous scriptural tradition, knowledgeable in his own right, recognizing the truth of the Qur'an. That confirms its message.
And second,
and this is the really sharp part, it highlights the sheer arrogance of the Quraysh. They, the Prophet's own people, his relatives, reject the message partly because they look down on the early believers, the poor, the marginalized. Yet here's this respected outsider, Abdullah ibn Salam, who sees the truth mirrored in his own scriptures, and he accepts it with humility. His acceptance throws their pride into really sharp relief.
that contrast leads perfectly into the next section, which exposes that core psychological barrier, arrogance. Specifically, the flawed logic of the elite, worldly status defining truth.
Yes, exactly. Verse 11 just lays bare this incredibly flawed social reasoning of the Meccan leaders. They dismiss the message, saying, quite literally, if it had truly been good, they, meaning the weak, the poor, the former slaves, would not have preceded us to it.
Wow. So their argument was basically, look, if this Islam thing was actually worthwhile, people like Bilal, the former slave, or Ammar from a less powerful family, wouldn't have gotten there first. We, the elite, would have been the first to recognize its value.
It's pure worldly metrics, wealth, lineage, social standing. That was their yardstick for truth. They couldn't stomach the idea of spiritual equality, or worse, following someone they considered socially inferior.
That's the essence of kibr, isn't it? Spiritual pride. Equating earthly success with being right or being favored by God.
Textbook kibr. The assumption that as God had something important to say, he'd obviously tell the important people first. But verse 12 immediately shuts that down. It reaffirms the Qur'an as a confirming book, following the path of Moses' scripture, sent as guidance and mercy for doers of good, regardless of their bank balance or family tree. Real honor comes from righteousness, not status.
And then the surah makes this fascinating immediate shift from that big societal arrogance down to the most fundamental unit, the family. It presents the archetype of the grateful child.
It's a brilliant structural move. After showing arrogance failing society, it grounds us back in the core relationship that holds society together, parents and children. Verse 15 lays down the command for ihsan, excellence and kindness and duty towards parents. It's presented as absolutely foundational to faith.
And the text, as you mentioned, really zooms in on the mother sacrifice. It uses that powerful word, kurhan, hardship, difficulty, pain to describe pregnancy, childbirth, and weaning.
That emphasis is so important for understanding her unique status and rights. She goes through multiple layers of hardship, the physical burden of carrying the child, the intense pain of labor, the demanding commitment of nursing and weaning. It all underlines her incredible sacrifice and why ihsan towards her is so stressed.
But then there's this amazing detail, the numerical point about 30 months, which led to a whole legal principle. Can we unpack that again? It's such a cool example of deep knowledge embedded in the text.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic nugget. So verse 15 says, and the bearing of him and the weaning of him is 30 months. That's the total time.
Okay, 30 months total.
Right. Then you look at other verses like in Surah Al-Luqman or Al-Baqarah, which mention that the period for weaning, if completed fully, is 2 whole years.
Which is 24 months.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So early jurists, notably Ali ibn Abi Talib, and then later it was famously applied by Caliph Uthman ibn Affan, they did the math. Total period, 30 months. Full
No.
weaning period, 24 months. Subtract one from the other.
30 minus 24 is 6? 6 months.
6 months. They deduced from the Qur'an itself that the minimum viable period for a human pregnancy, the minimum term for a fetus to be considered potentially viable, is 6 months.
So this wasn't just a general statement about hardship. It became actual legal precedent, used in real cases.
Yes, very much so. It became a crucial legal safeguard. Think about it. In the early community, if a woman gave birth, say 6 or 7 months after getting married, people might gossip, accusations of adultery might fly.
Right, suspicions could arise.
But Caliph Uthman famously used this very deduction to defend a woman who was wrongly accused. He cited these verses to prove that a 6-month pregnancy was entirely possible according to divine revelation, thereby protecting her honor and establishing this principle in Islamic law. It's a profound legal insight derived from comparing verses about motherhood.
Amazing. So after establishing that foundation of gratitude rooted in recognizing parental sacrifice, the verse jumps ahead to the age of 40. Why 40? Why is that age highlighted as this critical moment for spiritual reflection and renewal?
Well, 40 is pretty widely seen in classical Islamic thought, and even in other traditions, as reaching a peak. It's the age of full strength, physical, intellectual, emotional maturity. You've likely gained significant life experience, hopefully weathered some storms, achieved some stability. You should have clarity.
So it's a natural time to take stock.
Exactly. It's the time for that profound reflection. Okay, I've reached maturity. What have I actually built? What's my legacy going to be? Am I truly on the right path? The implication is if genuine spiritual commitment hasn't taken root by 40, it's a worrying sign. It's presented as the ideal age to consciously renew one's dedication to Allah and the hereafter.
And the model prayer, the dua, given in the verse for someone reaching the stage, captures that mature perspective perfectly. It links past, present, and future.
It really is a comprehensive life plan and a prayer. It starts with gratitude for the past, acknowledging Allah's blessings on oneself and on one's parents, linking back to that initial command of Ihsan. Then it moves immediately to commitment in the present, making a sincere intention, enable me to do righteousness that you approve. It's about actively seeking to please God now.
Right.
And finally, it looks with hope to the future, praying specifically, and make righteous for me my offspring. The truly grateful and mature believer understands that their faith isn't just personal. It needs to extend into a righteous legacy through their children. It connects the generations.
Such a beautiful, complete picture of piety. And then, bam!
The surah immediately contrasts this ideal with its polar opposite, the contemptuous child. The shift is jarring.
It's meant to be jarring. It's a stark warning. We go from profound gratitude and devotion to utter disrespect. And notice the first sign of this child's corruption. It's seemingly small, but the Qur'an highlights its gravity, saying oof to his parents. That sound of annoyance, of exasperation.
Just that little sound, oof, is forbidden.
Yes, by prohibiting even the mildest expression of impatience or disrespect, the Qur'an sets the absolute highest standard for how we treat our parents. It's like a zero-tolerance policy for filial impiety. And it really does seem like a gateway sin here. That disrespect towards the parents, the ones who made all those sacrifices mentioned earlier, it spirals directly into rejecting the ultimate source of all blessings.
That's the tragedy unfolded. The child explicitly links his disrespect for his parents, who were reminding him of Allah's promise, to outright disbelief in the hereafter. He mocks the idea of resurrection, calling it fables of the ancients.
So his ingratitude towards his immediate benefactors leads directly to denying the ultimate benefactor and the accountability he promises.
Precisely. He can't honor his origins, his physical past represented by his parents, so he denies his ultimate origin and his eternal future. He chooses the immediate, fleeting world over the lasting truth.
And the parents' reaction in the verse, it's not anger, is it? It's heartbreak and fear for him.
It's pure tragedy. They don't yell back or argue on their own behalf. Their response is driven by love and immense fear for his soul's fate. They cry out, invoking Allah's help, pleading with him, "Woe to you, believe! Indeed, the promise of Allah is true."
Their primary concern isn't their own hurt feelings, it's his eternal salvation. It underscores that the highest duty of a parent is guiding their child towards faith.
And the divine verdict that follows connects the punishment directly to the sin of arrogance, the istikbar.
Yes. Verse 20 delivers that chilling outcome. It says, individuals get degrees according to what they did. Their reward or punishment fits their actions. And to these arrogant, ungrateful ones, it said, you exhausted your good things in the life of the world, and you took your pleasure therein. You chose the temporary pleasures over eternal good.
So the punishment fits the crime. Perfectly. So this day you will be awarded the punishment of humiliation. Arabhun. Eternal humiliation is the exact, just recompense for the worldly pride and arrogance, istikbar, that made them disrespect their parents, deny accountability, and chase only fleeting gratification. They built on sand, they prioritized the temporary, and the result is collapse and disgrace.
Okay, so having laid out the consequences of arrogance on the family level, the Surah now scales it up, giving us the ultimate historical case study, the people of Ad, dwellers of Al-Ahqaf, the sand dunes themselves. This feels like it's aimed squarely at the proud Quraysh leaders.
It absolutely is. The Quraysh knew the stories of Ad very well. They were legendary, this ancient, incredibly powerful civilization in southern Arabia, known for their immense physical strength, their sophisticated buildings, constructing lofty towers such as had never been built in any other land, as Al-Quran mentions elsewhere.
So they were the superpower of their time.
Definitely. And the story serves as a stark warning. Your material wealth, your military might, your technological achievements, none of it grants you immunity from divine consequences if you're arrogant and reject the truth.
Their prophet, Hud, came to them with the same core message, right? Worship Allah alone. But their power seems to have bred this total delusion.
Complete delusion. Their reaction wasn't just disbelief, it was mockery, fueled by immense hubris. They were so utterly confident in their own strength that they actually challenged Hud. They said, essentially, stop warning us. Bring on this punishment you keep talking about if you're telling the truth.
They dared God, basically.
They did. They were completely blind to the real source of power, thinking their own physical might was the ultimate measure of reality.
And then comes that incredibly poignant moment, the aha moment you called it, where they fatally misinterpret the sign of their own destruction. It really shows how deep their spiritual blindness went.
It's the absolute climax of their denial. They'd been suffering a long, severe drought. Something you'd think might humble them, make them turn back to God.
Right, make them desperate.
Instead, when they finally see this dense, dark cloud approaching on the horizon, what do? Because their whole worldview is materialistic, focused only on the immediate, they rejoice. They shout, "This is a cloud bringing us rain."
Oh, wow. They thought it was relief.
They welcomed it. They completely mistook the sign of their impending doom, this terrifying, destructive windstorm described in the surah, for a sign of mercy, for the rain they desperately needed.
They literally welcomed their own annihilation because their arrogance and materialism blinded them to its true nature. They couldn't read the signs.
Couldn't read the signs at all. And that's the devastating lesson hammered home in verse 26. Allah explicitly says He had given them hearing, vision, and hearts, all the faculties needed to perceive, understand, and reflect.
The tools for recognizing truth.
The very tools. But, the verse continues, these faculties availed them nothing, precisely because they consciously chose to deny Allah's signs. Ayah, your intelligence, your strength, your technology, it's all useless, even counterproductive, if it's coupled with arrogance and denial instead of humility and submission.
What a powerful historical lesson. And it serves as the perfect setup, a dramatic contrast to the very next story, the encounter with the believing jinn, especially considering this happened right after the prophet's lowest point, returning rejected from Taif.
The contrast is stunning, and the timing again is key. This encounter is presented as direct divine consolation. Just when humans, his own tribe in Makkah, the people of Taif, had rejected him with such cruelty, here comes an entirely different creation, the jinn, who hear the message and immediately accept it. Their response becomes the model for how anyone seeking truth should react.
And the surah highlights specific virtues in their response, doesn't it? Things the arrogant humans lacked. First, that sense of reverence, of proper etiquette adab.
Yes, that's the first thing. As soon as they hear the prophet reciting the Qur'an, their immediate reaction is to tell each other, and see to, listen in silence, or pay attention.
Showing respect for the word being spoken.
Profound respect. They instantly recognized the gravity, the sanctity of what was being recited. They prioritized listening attentively over everything else. No arguing, no interrupting, just focused, reverent listening. quite different from the heckling the prophet often faced.
Okay, so reverence first. Second, you mentioned their intellectual humility. They didn't dismiss it just because it was new or from an unexpected source.
Exactly. They didn't say, well, this isn't from our tradition or we haven't heard this before. Instead, they recognized the continuity of truth. They said, we have truly heard a scripture revealed after Moses, confirming what came before it.
So they connected it to what they already knew to be true.
Yes. They used their prior knowledge not as a shield to reject the new, but as a lens to recognize the familiar divine signature. They were looking for confirmation of the straight path, not novelty for its own sake. This is the complete opposite of the Quraysh leaders who rejected the Qur'an precisely because it challenged their inherited pagan customs and social hierarchy.
Makes sense. And the third virtue, they didn't just believe passively. They immediately took action, that proactive dawah.
Their conviction wasn't just an internal feeling, it spurred immediate action. The moment the recitation ended, the verse says, they returned to their people as warners. They instantly took on the responsibility of sharing the truth they had just heard.
Wow, no delay.
No delay, no need for committee meetings or checking their social status. They didn't need wealth or power to validate the message first. All they needed was a sincere, humble heart to accept the truth and then the courage to immediately go and share it. Such a powerful reminder. The real requirements for accepting guidance aren't about your species, your status, or your background. It's about sincerity and humility.
So, as the surah draws towards its conclusion, it seems to be grounding the believer in absolute certainty, especially regarding the hereafter. It starts with this really logical proof for resurrection.
Yes, it circles back to the evidence of creation, posing this powerful rhetorical question that just dismantles doubt. It asks, essentially, do they not see that Allah, who created the heavens and the earth and was not wearied by their creation, is able to give life to the dead?
It's the logic of omnipotence, right? If you accept the first greater creation, the entire universe, which Allah did without any effort or fatigue, then surely the second, seemingly simpler act of recreating individuals is well within his power.
Absolutely. It removes any rational objection to the idea of being brought back to life. If he did the macro, he can certainly do the micro. It makes denial seem illogical.
And then verse 34 paints this vivid, dramatic picture of that inevitable moment on the day of judgment. The confrontation.
It's incredibly dramatic. The disbelievers, all their worldly arrogance stripped away, are brought face to face with the reality of the fire, and they're asked point blank, is this not the truth?
And their response.
They have no choice but to confess, yes, by our Lord. The truth they denied all their lives is now undeniable. It's a complete vindication for the prophet and the message. But the tragedy is, the confession comes too late. It's forced by the reality they see, and it offers them no benefit at that point.
Knowing that this moment of confession is absolutely certain that ultimate justice will prevail. That must be the foundation for the final command in the surah, the command for sabr, for patience.
It is the ultimate anchor. This final verse is directed straight at the prophecy, enduring the immense pain of the year of sorrow. But it extends to every single believer facing any kind of hardship, then and now. The command is majestic, so be patient, as were those of determination ulu azm among the messengers.
The ulu azm, these are the heavyweights, right? The messengers of firm resolve. Who are they considered to be?
Generally, they're identified as the 5 greatest prophets known for their extraordinary perseverance through immense trials. Noah, who preached for 950 years facing constant rejection. Abraham, commanded to sacrifice his son and facing Nimrod. Moses, confronting Pharaoh and leading his people through the wilderness. Isa, Jesus, enduring rejection and the plot against him. And finally, Muhammad himself, enduring everything we've discussed.
So the instruction isn't just be patient, it's be patient like them. Aim for the highest standard of steadfastness.
Exactly. Model your endurance on these giants of faith who never wavered despite unimaginable opposition and suffering.
And part of that patience involves trusting God's timing. The verse continues, and do not be hasty for them. Don't rush the outcome for the disbelievers.
Yes, it's about relinquishing the need for immediate results or immediate vindication. Your job is to stand firm, deliver the message with wisdom and patience, and leave the timing of consequences, the ultimate reckoning, entirely to Allah's perfect wisdom and schedule. It shifts the focus from temporary worldly wins to long-term spiritual success and submission to the divine plan.
And then the final piece perspective offered is just mind-bending. It reframes the entire human experience when they finally see their ultimate fate.
Their entire earthly life, all those years, all those struggles, all those fleeting pleasures or pains, It will seem to them as if they had not remained in the world except an hour of a day.
Just an hour, all of it.
Just a fleeting moment. That perspective instantly shrinks the perceived magnitude of any worldly trial. The boycott, the loss of loved ones, the stoning at Taif, years of mockery. If the entirety of life feels like just 1 hour when viewed against the backdrop of eternity, then enduring those relatively short hardships for an infinite reward becomes not just bearable, but rational. That's the perspective that fuels true istiqamah, true steadfastness. Hashtag outro.
Wow. What an incredibly rich and really foundational blueprint for resilience we've uncovered here in Surah Al-Ahqaf. If we try to sort of synthesize the core wisdom given to the Prophet Isa in his darkest time, it feels like there are maybe 4 key pillars for enduring trials that stand out.
I think that's a good way to put it. First, definitely the absolute necessity of sound foundation built on al-Haq, the truth. Our beliefs, our lives can't be based on guesswork or tradition or social pressure. They need that solid grounding in verifiable evidence, rational, revealed, historical. Don't build on shifting sand.
Right. Pillar 1, solid foundation. Pillar 2 seems to be the imperative of gratitude starting right at home with our parents. Recognizing and honoring our immediate benefactors is presented as the crucial first step to recognizing and submitting to the ultimate benefactor, Allah.
Absolutely. Gratitude unlocks that connection. And third, the unmistakable warning against arrogance, kibre. We saw it in the Quraysh elite judging truth by status. We saw it in the mighty ad misreading their own doom. Arrogance just leads to spiritual blindness and, ultimately, that punishment of humiliation. Humility is the key that opens the door to truth.
Makes sense. Foundation, gratitude, humility. And the 4th pillar has to be that final command. The virtue of unwavering patience, Sabr, modeling the incredible resolve of the Ulul Azm, the great messengers, and anchoring ourselves in the certainty of God's justice and the, frankly, utter brevity of this worldly life in the grand scheme of things.
Exactly, and the Surah does it so masterfully, moving from the huge scale of the cosmos right down to the intimacy of family dynamics. It really gives a complete strategy for facing both external opposition and our own internal weaknesses with unwavering conviction.
So here's the challenge, maybe, for you, the listener, as you reflect on Al-Ahqaf. Thinking about that story of Ad, blinded by their own power and success, and contrasting it with the immediate humble acceptance of the jinn. What hidden sand dunes might be present in your own life?
Yeah, what shifting, temporary, worldly metrics, maybe wealth, maybe status, maybe popularity, maybe even intellectual pride, might you be unconsciously using right now to judge the value of a message, or the worth of a person, or the truth of a situation?
If you find yourself dismissing something simply because of who supports it, or embracing something just because it's popular or powerful, you might be standing on the same kind of sand that doomed Ad.
And then, how does internalizing that long-term patience of the Ulul Azm, that deep certainty that this whole life is truly but an hour of a day, how does that change your priorities? How does it change your actions, your efforts, your ability to stand firm with integrity right now, whether you're facing a small annoyance or a major life trial?
Definitely something to mull over, something profound to reflect on.
Indeed.
Until next time on The Deep Dive.